Okay, I just wanted to talk about this one a little bit. I very often use patchwork as a base, and if you go to stitch on it, which I started to do here, a lot of times while you're stitching you can pull it out of shape. And also I find that when you're doing any kind of embroidery, a very thin double layer is just so much easier to work on. So I have backed this one with a cloth. This is the harem cloth from Dharma. It's really just a very thin, gauzy fabric. It's really not like cheesecloth. It's not like muslin, but it's somewhere in between. And sometimes I even use old blouse fabric or curtain lining. Anything that is very soft and easy to stitch through and also doesn't add any weight. So it really doesn't feel any heavier, but it's more stable. And it gives kind of the stitches something to hold on to and hug. And a lot of times it makes a big difference in the accuracy of your stitching because it just shifts less. So what I've done here is I've used the, in lieu of white, I've used this pale yellow, which I think gives it a much nicer warmth. And since there's so much contrast between dark and light here, it reads just as, dramatically as the white itself, but it has a warmth. So I took that into consideration. And I've used a wrap stitch here over my pen lines. And when I come back in to do something like the 9 patch where I'm going to fill in the dark now, I change the direction because I find that it helps me clean up some of the rougher lines, and it just pulls less in one direction. Sometimes I put an extra row in here just to square it up a little bit. The wrap stitch has a nice little channel you can run your needle through on the back. The single-ended split back stitches really like splitting hairs. It's a slow process, but it's a really extremely refined stitch that's very similar to a line. And you can build it up very slowly. And really fill in any space, almost like coloring with a pencil. And it does take a while, but it hugs the fabric so nicely. And since you build it up so slowly, you can really shape it. And it's strong, and it doesn't have long floats. And I find it the closest to drawing, really. Again, I'm going in the opposite direction here so that I can, if you keep sewing in the same direction all the time, you kind of pull the fabric in the same direction all the time, and sometimes it puckers up. And this is sort of a balancing act here. It really fills in a space beautifully. And I'm thumb smashing here, which kind of merges all the stitches. That looks pretty good. So I'll continue. I'm just going to walk my thread on the back over to the other section. I find that's fine to do as long as the floats on the back aren't too long. Depending on what you're going to do with the thing, it doesn't matter anyway, but if you were sewing on a garment or something, you would want it not to catch on anything, so keeping them short is handy. I like this shadowing effect. And I think trying to do this part in a, I should fix that there, in a wrap stitch would be too much. I think this is more stabilizing.